The Republic Broadcasting Network.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And welcome to our show. It is Friday, October 30th, 2020. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. We have a lot to talk about today. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials and keeping us out of trouble. And as usual, we're going to talk about the news until we run out of news, at which point we're going to open the phone lines and listen to your calls about your opinions, comments, questions, and so forth. The Lady Claire will be joining us in hour number 2 with her unique perspective on the world. So let's get right on into it. First of all, of course, tomorrow's Halloween. So if you haven't gotten your little COVID-safe candies and treats ready to go, there's still a little time left today and tomorrow morning to get that going. This weekend is also a blue moon. And if you don't know what that means, it means a second full moon inside the same month. That's what a blue moon means. Once in a blue moon, it doesn't happen all that often. In fact, this is the first blue moon to occur on Halloween in something like 20 years. And the other thing to keep in mind for this weekend is that it is the end of daylight savings time. So on Saturday night, when you go to bed, set your clocks back 1 hour. So spring ahead, fall behind, and you'll get to sleep a little bit later, I think. It's not the other way. Anyway, let's get on into it here. The story about the Biden corruption is still echoing around the internet and the independent media. The corporate media, except for Fox News, is still out there insisting it's all been debunked. It's all Russian disinformation. You shouldn't listen to it. The Washington Post actually came out in an op-ed and said, we're going to treat it as Russian disinformation, even if it isn't. And that's not really journalism. It's not really reporting. It is pure propaganda of the worst sort. And people are looking at what was going on with Joe and Hunter Biden relative to China, basically saying that if Biden wins, China is going to be running this country from behind the scenes because they've got the goods on Joe Biden for the business dealings. They've got the goods on Hunter Biden because of that was on that laptop, which is still leaking out all over the internet here. And it's all out in the open. Tony Bobulinski and his interview on Tucker Carlson really came across as sincere. They set viewership records for Tucker Carlson, which has a high viewership as it is. And Rudy Giuliani came out with a new tape basically saying that Joe Biden partnered with Chinese communists for $30 million. That's a lot of money. And I can imagine it would be kind of hard to turn down. But then Joe Biden was supposed to be the vice president, and he's supposed to turn down things like that. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. An official at the Department of Justice has confirmed that the FBI has an open criminal investigation into Hunter Biden and his associates focused on money laundering, and the probe is currently active. Now, of course, the FBI had the Hunter Biden laptop going back to December of last year, and so they've known all along what was going on and what could be revealed. Now, Bobulinski is saying that he was questioned by the FBI for 5 hours. He is a material witness in this ongoing FBI investigation into money laundering by Hunter Biden and his business associates. Now, over at the Biden campaign, a spokesperson is not denying that Joe Biden met with Hunter associate and whistleblower Tony Bobulinski. Now, Bobulinski said he met with Joe Biden at least twice, and the Biden campaign is not denying it. And as a matter of fact, the Biden campaign hasn't actually denied any of it. They're not denying that the emails are real. They're not denying that the laptop belonged to Hunter Biden. They're just totally focused on it's Russian disinformation, and it's a desperate move by Trump, who's got nothing else to run on. Actually, Trump's got a lot to run on, a lot more than Biden does here. And the corporate media is still playing their little games to support Biden. CNN has refused to air a Trump ad talking about Joe Biden's raising taxes, claiming that it is false. And that's absolutely ridiculous because Joe Biden is on tape saying he is going to raise taxes. And so CNN is refusing to air this anti-Biden ad, even though it is absolutely accurate. The corporate media has just really gone out on a limb. They're desperate to get rid of Trump and get Biden in there, even though Biden is probably not going to last very long with his deteriorating mental case. And we're going to wind up with Kamala Harris as president somewhere within, I would say, 6 months to maybe a year at the outside here. Now, getting on back to Tucker Carlson, the story with the missing documents has taken an interesting turn. UPS claims they found the flash drive that contained these documents basically on the floor of an office. They've returned the flash drive to Tucker Carlson and his producer. They refuse to answer how they went missing in the first place, how they got removed from the package. And even more interesting, they claim they have thrown the packaging away so that no investigation, they can't look and see if it was cut open, torn open, if anybody wrote on the outside of it. They have just thrown it away. They've issued the usual banal statement about how they value the property of their customers very highly and they don't lose things. And that's all they're willing to say. They're refusing to provide any details about exactly how this all came down. Now, Tucker Carlson and his producer, of course, had copies of all of this information because they're careful. And it may be because Tucker Carlson announced they had copies that whoever at UPS had intercepted this package decided, all right, there's not much point in us keeping it anyway here. Now, there's an interesting little article coming out of uns.com, basically predicting that if Trump wins the election by less than a landslide that cannot be challenged, the Democrats and the American corporate media will not admit that Trump won. And they're going to basically claim that Trump committed election fraud, even though all the election fraud discovered to date is primarily Democratic. And they're planning to use the tactics of the Maidan revolution in Ukraine, which has been repeated recently in Belarus, to try and prevent Trump's inauguration. Things are going to get really, really intense after the election next Tuesday. Now, the documentary, The Plot Against the President, detailed out the Russiagate plot by the FBI, the Democrats, and the media to try and remove Trump from office early on in his first term. And it looks like they are just dead set against him getting a second term. And my concern is that if Trump does win by a landslide that overcomes all the election fraud and makes it obvious that the American people want him to be in the White House again, I'm concerned they'll resort to the Kennedy option on him. So if anybody from the Secret Service is listening, drink lots of coffee, wear your Kevlar, make sure Trump is wearing his Kevlar, and be alert because you're about to earn your paychecks, I think. Now, over in, well, actually a lot of places across the country, but over in Beverly Hills, the police department has issued a warning to retailers to board up their windows. And Rodeo Drive is going to be shut down before election night out of concerns of rioting and looting if Trump is declared the winner at least that night. We know it's going to drag out for several days afterwards because of all the mail-in and absentee ballots. But they're basically boarding everything up. What a sight. I mean, I've been on Rodeo Drive. I know what it looks like. And the idea of it being all boarded up, or even worse, rioting and looting, that's a very scary thought. That's not what America is supposed to be here. The Texas governor has ordered up 1,000 troops to deal with post-election disturbances. Everybody's expecting there to be more riots, and they're right to do so when you remember all the rioting that happened after Hillary lost to Trump in 2016. Now, over at Walmart, they are removing all the guns and ammo from their shelves and display cases in all stores, again, as a precaution against civil unrest. Now, weapons will still be available for purchase upon request in stores where they are sold. And they sell firearms in about half of their stores. Walmart did not say when it would put the guns and ammo back on the shelves and display cases. Around here, Walmart confines their gun and ammo sales to .22 caliber only. So it's plinking guns is basically what it comes down to. Apparently over in Washington, D.C., it's already cranking up there. They've had a second night of violence. And apparently this one was caused by the death of a black man who crashed his vehicle while being chased by police. And rioters are flinging fireworks at the Washington, D.C. police, tried to storm into a precinct building. Several officers were injured when a firework exploded right next to them, according to Fox 5. And a video posted showed protesters yelling death wishes at a line of officers before the firework was thrown. I wish hate for all of you all. One woman said, I hate all of you, blank. And I hope all your parents have strokes in their sleep. I mean, very uncivil kind of behavior. And the election hasn't even happened yet. And already there's violence in the streets of Washington, D.C. So this is probably going to get ugly. And I think there's going to be upset and violence regardless of who wins. But I think it will be worse if Trump wins, again, based on what happened in 2016. Getting on over to the social media censorship that has finally broken into the corporate media. Social media originally set out supposedly to democratize speech, the internet being the ultimate democracy, but that's been changed ever since we've all been funneled into these few major corporations that are now acting as conduits for conversations. It's turned into censorship, a Soviet-style thought police. Now, long ago when they first started up, Google's motto was "Don't be evil." Facebook was all about connecting people, and Twitter executives proclaimed it the free speech wing of the free speech party. Here in 2020, they're all about deplatforming voices the legacy media and political establishment has decided is unworthy of being heard. And right now they're scared. One of the reasons, I mean, they're pouring another $100 million into Biden's campaign, and they understand that this time, if Trump does win re-election, he's going to come after them. He should have done it after 2016. He should have cleaned up the election system after 2016. This time in his second term and not having to suck up to anybody because he can't have a third term. Trump is going to be free to actually keep some of the promises he made back in 2016. And I'm certainly looking forward to that, in particular with cleaning up our election system. Over at the Supreme Court, Justice Clarence Thomas says he supports changes to Section 230, which is the portion of the law which basically immunizes social media from civil lawsuits regarding censorship, or defamation, or anything like that. And, I mean, even the corporate media doesn't have the equivalent of a Section 230. They can be sued for censorship and bad behavior. But we do need to end that, where corporate media, social media, becomes responsible to their users again. And doesn't use it as an excuse to impose the political beliefs of the CEOs, who all happen to be hardcore liberals, unfortunately, upon their users. Now, during a hearing before the Senate Commerce Committee yesterday, Twitter's CEO Jack Dorsey claimed falsely that Twitter had never censored President Trump. And that is absolutely a lie. There are numerous examples of the president being silenced on Twitter, and they're easy to find. Now, interestingly enough, apparently, this is a story coming out of Investment Watch blog. The FBI asked Facebook to censor anything negative about Joe Biden, knowing what would be coming out because they were in possession of Hunter Biden's laptop since December of last year. So it's like all of these deep state agencies, the FBI and the CIA, they all want Donald Trump to go away. And they're willing to basically place this country under the control of a man whose mental faculties are clearly deteriorating. I love that video of Joe Biden saying he's going to defeat Joe Biden. It's one of my favorites here so far. Anyway, a Senate committee has been looking at the documents produced by Tony Bobulinski, and basically they have concluded they are legitimate. There are no forgeries. There are no fakes. And a spokesman for Senator Ron Johnson told the Daily Caller that what had been reviewed so far turned out to be legitimate, and there is no evidence to suggest the content is false or, more to the point, Russian disinformation. All right, interesting story, major ramifications. Now, Claire's going to talk about this a lot in hour number 2, but I'm going to mention it just briefly here. Glenn Greenwald, you probably remember him from the Edward Snowden case, has resigned from The Intercept, which is the outlet he co-founded. And apparently it all came down to an article that Glenn Greenwald wrote, which is available online, just not at The Intercept. And the editors at The Intercept censored this article. They refused to publish it unless he made changes. Now, Glenn Greenwald's contract with The Intercept allowed him journalistic freedom and editorial control over his content. So the editors at The Intercept were very much in violation of his contract, and he's tendered his resignation. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in hour number 2 with the lovely Lady Claire. Okay, story here. This is coming out of Information Clearinghouse. Why the media is not covering Hunter Biden. And this is also coming from Glenn Greenwald as well, saying how disgusted he is with the corporate media. And he says it's very obvious the corporate media is desperate for Trump to lose. And it could be as simple as revenge for 2016, because Trump made them all look bad. They were all out there in the weeks before the election. Oh, we have polls. Hillary's going to win. She's up 87%. She's up 93%. And then Trump pulled off this upset and made the corporate media look like a joke, which frankly they are of their own making. And it could happen again, and that's why they're in a panic mode. Now, getting on back to Hunter Biden, this is a story that came out of Station Gossip, and it turns out Hunter Biden has a Pornhub account. Now, it was under a different name, but according to this article, pictures that were posted to this account at Pornhub match those found on Hunter Biden's laptop, including nude pictures of this family member who is thought to be underage. This is pretty disgusting here. And as if Hunter did not have enough trouble right now, a Senate panel is now investigating Hunter Biden's failure to register as a foreign agent while he was promoting the interest of China and Ukraine. So the Obama administration did not prosecute Hunter Biden for violations of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, despite its much more aggressive pursuit of FARA cases relative to other administration, including its opening of criminal investigations on no fewer than 6 Trump campaign advisors in 2016. So Hunter Biden got a pass on that, maybe not. Now, there's a lot of people out there saying that if Biden wins, there'll be a special counsel. I don't think so. I think if Trump wins, there'll be a special counsel looking into the Biden scandals, unless Trump and Joe Biden make a deal, as one of our callers the other day suggested, that Trump will call up Joe Biden and say, look, I won the election, just concede and don't cause a fuss, and it'll all go away. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials, and we'll be back with more news after these.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the Energy Cleaner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an Energy Cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
Welcome back to our show here, and a friendly reminder that Republic Broadcasting Network is in the middle of a perpetual fundraiser. And, you know, we're not willing to sell out to China or Ukraine or pretty much anybody else at this point. So we don't have millions of dollars being money laundered into our pockets when nobody's looking. In fact, our pockets are pretty darned empty here, and that's where you come in. Because we need your help to keep doing what we're doing. You know, it costs a lot to keep this network running, to keep the web servers up and running, to replace equipment that wears out, and it does tend to wear out very fast under the heavy use that we put it. And so we need you to basically step up. And first of all, a heartfelt thank you to those who've already donated. And for those of you who have not yet donated, may frogs creep into your bedroom tonight and nibble on your fingers. So a reminder that the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. The network thanks you. Okay, so we're back here talking about the well, actually, we're going to go on to COVID-19 here because we're trying to get as much in as we can before we open the phone lines here. Story coming on out from Scoopy Web: is your mask safe? And they're saying there's new research out there that shows some of the masks out there stop maybe 7% of bacteria, and that there are variations, great variations, between the best and worst face coverings. And as I was commenting, some of the ones you find, being handmade by local artisans down at the supermarkets and everything, if you hold them up over your eyes, you can see through them. You can actually read through them, and it's a huge gap. And even if they're stopping 7% of bacteria, viruses are so much smaller than bacteria. It sort of dovetails along with the word we got from the CDC that these masks really aren't working all that well. So apparently this research tested masks available from Asda, John Lewis, Boots, Ocado, and ASOS, and they were tested for how well they filtered bacteria and how breathable they were. And I'm not sure why they were testing again for bacteria, because we're dealing with a virus called COVID-19. Now, the Pope has canceled public Christmas celebrations at the Vatican, despite having just attended an ecumenical extravaganza. In fact, apparently the Pope is now so concerned about COVID-19, he has canceled all public audiences until further notice. Now, wondering about the soaring numbers at the hospitals down in Texas, apparently, according to this article that came out of Your Destination Now, El Paso ambulances are bringing COVID-19 patients from Juarez into U.S. hospitals. And that is another reason we're seeing these soaring numbers out there. All right, turning to the international news, story coming on out of VoltaireNet is saying that George Soros has sent 2,000 Kurdish mercenaries into Armenia. And apparently Erdogan has informed Russian President Putin about this development, and basically added that 2,000 fighters belonging to the Partia Kakarin Kurdistan have been moved to Armenia. Now, I think George Soros just violated the Boland Amendment, because he's essentially engaging in foreign policy without being a proper accredited representative of the United States government. Not that he'll ever be prosecuted. He's another one of the untouchables. We've been seeing about the protests and beheadings over the caricatures of Prophet Muhammad in Paris. Apparently, it is also happening in Beirut, Lebanon. And, there was a mass demonstration calling to respect Islam, and Muhammad hit the Lebanese capital after numerous Muslim countries and organizations slammed French President Macron for criticizing Islamism and urging to free Islam in France from foreign influence and strengthen control on the mosque's funding. Well, that's going to be a hard sell. And again, I'm not happy over Charlie Hebdo's decision to republish those cartoons that caused such an upset to begin with. But on the other hand, the Muslims do have to understand that when you're running around churches beheading people, it's going to get you talked about in a very negative light. Okay. Jeremy Corbyn has been suspended from the Labor Party over claims of anti-Semitism. All right, we're going to go ahead and take another break for commercials, and we'll be back with news about the economy after these two words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Hey gang, Patrick Slattery here with an important message that is pertinent to anyone who shops for groceries, eats food, or just has an inquisitive mind like myself. What I'm about to introduce you to is a segment of our food culture that has been kept so low profile to the American public that virtually no one is aware of how dominant it is on our refrigerator and cupboard shelves. What I'm talking about is the kosher certification industry and a new app, Koshertified, that delivers a comprehensive education on all aspects regarding this little-known practice. After reviewing this app, I found that it is useful for practically anyone to purchase this food, regardless of their religious faith or identity. Its database of products not kosher certified is a win-win convenience for all food-conscious people. So why not check out thekosherquestion.com or click on the link at nationalbugle.com and see how modifying your grocery shopping with the Koshertified app can make a huge difference for your future.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The Republic Broadcasting Network late night premiere show of Red Pill Hardcore is hosted by activists that want to hear from you, the listeners. So that you can get involved in the activism, please call in at 800-313-9443 at 10 p.m. to enter the discussion. To book yourself as a guest, call our studio at 202-657-5715 or contact RBN staff. Remember, keep it real and take the red pill.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves.
Welcome back to our show here. A couple of stories about the economy, and then we're going to open the phone lines here. It was a rough day on the stock market. The Dow at one point was down 450. It closed down 157. So the money junkies did not get their happy ending for the investment week here. Now, Trump is out there touting the fact of the largest gross domestic product increase in U.S. history. In the third quarter, the GDP was up 33.1%. And a lot of that was generated by people just getting sick of masks and social distancing and self-quarantining and starting to get back out there to the stores, or at least to the online retailers, and starting to spend some money. Joe Biden has responded to this by saying, well, you know, it's not enough. And of course, that's an easy political campaign statement. No matter what Trump does, Biden comes back and should have been more, could have been better. You know, doesn't matter what Trump did to deal with the coronavirus. Biden's out there saying could have been a lot better. And I think a lot of people are seeing through that. All right, we're going to take a phone call now from David in Boston. Hello, David. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, aloha, Michael. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. You're on the air.
Okay. Yeah, Michael, You know, one of the main reasons, Michael, why I just cannot bring myself to vote for Trump this time around. I voted for him the last time when the Clinton crime family suicided Scott McCullough,
Uh-huh.
known as known as Victor Thorne. And that's what prompted me just to vote for Trump. But Michael,
Well, I go back a little
like,
earlier than that to Vince Foster.
Yeah, like Mike, when it comes to like building the border wall down on the Mexican border and all this, and different promises he made that he didn't keep, he can fall back and say, well, Congress didn't cooperate with me, the courts didn't cooperate with me, they prevented me from building the big wall that I wanted to. Different promises that he broke, he can blame other people for. But there's one promise that's solely on him, and as an Irish American that was traumatized. One of my first traumas was when President Kennedy was assassinated.
Yes.
When I was like a 10-year-old boy, and I remember it distinctly, everything about it. But it was on a Friday afternoon. But anyways, he promised that he would that he wouldn't prevent the classified Kennedy archives from being revealed and so on and so forth. He promised transparency. Then when it came around, he took up his executive pen and he signed the paperwork that continued to keep the most important classified archives secret. Okay.
Yes.
And I guess they released some insignificant stuff, but anyways, like I feel like I really feel like this Kosher Nostra New York City crime family that he heads up, Mr. 666, Fifth Avenue, Donald Trump, and the Don of the New York City Kosher Nostra. See, he works with other crime families, the Clinton crime family.
Okay,
and
before we start running off here into all kinds of verbiage, I'd like to respond to the fact that Trump did sign that executive order. I don't agree with it, obviously, but I can understand why he, as the president, might have done that without needing outside influence from other parties, because if he probably looked in the files and saw what was there and realized that exposure of what actually did happen to John F. Kennedy would completely delegitimize and discredit the entire U.S. government itself. And so by allowing that information to come on out, he's basically doing himself out of a job. And, there are two kinds of secrets in politics. There are the little secrets like Hunter Biden's porn on his laptop that surface during campaigns to be used as weapons against each other. And then there are the great secrets that are so terrible they would bring down the entire government itself. And those are always protected by all parties and all sides. And everybody works to keep those secrets. That includes the assassination of John F. Kennedy. It includes what happened on 9/11 and so many other cases in history. And you keep calling into the show and talking about how Trump is part of an organized crime family. And yet what is surfacing here from a media that is anti-Trump and pro-Biden is grudgingly the acknowledgement that the Bidens are corrupt. And they really haven't managed to find anything on Trump. And I think that's another reason they're very angry.
Yeah, well, anyways, he's definitely tied into top man in the Kosher Nostra. He's tied in with that Jared Kushner. He's all tied in with Benjamin Netanyahu and all the corruption over in Israel and that 666 Fifth Avenue. Let me tell you something, Mike. I'll close with this. Trump, his favorite word is great. Everything's great with him. Great, great, great. Everything, the great police, the great LGBTQ, the great black community, everything's great. They make America great, keep it great. Let me tell you something, Mr. Trumpy Dumpty. If you have a great fall in this election, maybe Trumpy Dumpty is going to have a great fall. I think it's very likely that Trumpy Dumpty has a great fall. And then we'll find out how much you like that word great after Trumpy Dumpty has his great fall. That's all I have to say, Mike. I'm getting off. I'm disgusted.
All right. Well, David, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Layla in Canada. Hello, Layla. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Michael. Yesterday, someone described me as being a pacifist. Anyone who knows me knows that that's one of the least accurate descriptions of my temperament and my approach to things. However, I do like to think of myself as a realist, and I believe that certain actions have to be taken at a particular time in order to maximize the likelihood of success.
Common
Now,
sense.
we're all familiar with the concept of collective punishment. We've seen it in how Israel treats the Palestinians. One person goes out with a gun or a bomb, and the entire populace is punished. Houses destroyed, their families punished, imprisoned, devastating effects on the entire group. Now, we have also seen huge changes in the municipal police departments in cities throughout the U.S. and Canada. And since 1992, for 27 years, the police departments in the U.S. and Canada have been trained by Israel on crowd control. So they may well have had instigators putting in individuals to incite violence with a lot of fancy slogans like Antifa, fascism, BLM, whatever. And the police stand by and watch while the riots ensue. However, when the right time comes, the police will act. Here are some, according to both Amnesty International and other newspapers that I found online last night. These are the police departments that have had, at taxpayer expense, the police trained by Israeli forces, and they include Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Florida, Georgia, Indiana, North Carolina, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, Nevada, New Jersey. I think I said Michigan already. New Jersey,
said
New
Georgia
York,
twice,
North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Texas, Utah, Virginia, Washington, and West Virginia. When the right time comes, if one person, a lone wolf or a few individuals go out and use any kind of firearms, they will invite collective punishment on who knows how large a group. Now, yesterday, somebody referred, that same person who called me a pacifist said that in Russia, those who were attacked by Stalin's forces or the KGB or whatever had said if only they had kept their guns, they could have responded. How long ago was that?
Not exactly what they said.
70 years ago?
It's not exactly what they said. It was Alexander. So it was basically they said, use axes and shovels and picks. They weren't talking about using firearms, but it was simply the idea of ordinary people banding together to take out Stalin's officers who were coming to arrest people. And it's a very powerful statement that Solzhenitsyn said. Every once in a while it pops up on the top of my website in the thought for the day.
And it was relevant for the time. What I'm saying is that today, the methods, the technology, and we've seen some of it used on the Palestinians, the technology today is dramatically different.
Yes.
Just even look back at the kettling that was done in Toronto during the G20 in 2010. The kettling that the police did, where they actually trapped all the peaceful protesters and many who were just peaceful bystanders watching the protests. The thing is that different techniques are available today. Even the simple little thing, I mean, there's just so much I could go into that I won't at this point. I would just say Palestine is an example of what could happen in other places when police departments, and we must not neglect the possibility to consider the possibility that even the military, not just municipal police, but the military in both the U.S. and Canada have also been trained by Mossad.
Yes.
So we know that both sides, not only did Trump hand the crown jewel over to the Zionists when he gave them Jerusalem, his children are also Orthodox Jews, or at least his daughter. But Biden also has 2 children who are married to Jews, and Kamala Harris, her husband is Jewish. So both sides are equally compromised when it comes to placing American interests as their primary source of loyalty. Now, the third term, Trump may not be able to run again for a third term, but what's to prevent his daughter or one of his sons from running again?
Absolutely nothing.
He failed to fulfill his promises the first time. We have no guarantee that he'll fulfill his promises the second time. But the problem is, we really don't have any choice. It's either way, the infiltration is so intense. The only thing is to bide our time and wait for the right time to respond. Whatever the outcome is, the most important thing is that people do not fall into a state of hysteria where rational, clear thought is not going to be the way that strategy going forward is planned. The most important thing is to keep the U.S. united and safe for everybody. I have to say, I've always felt like an exile from my hometown. However, there's the period in my life when I was a teenager and again when I was an adult, where I either studied or worked in the U.S. Those were the happiest periods of my life. The being part of something as wonderful as the United States gave me great pride. The only reason I did not take out U.S. citizenship when I was there was because I knew that Canada had a bias against the U.S., especially when working in TV news. So
Yes.
I did not take out U.S. citizenship. So, but I wish I had, because it wasn't, I walked away from my career at the time when it was supposedly at its most profitable because I was so disgusted by it. But the most important thing I have to say is I am not a pacifist. I like to think that I am a realist. And I think I've studied enough and experienced enough as I look back from a very personal perspective on what the potential is. When the mind is clouded by violence, the weakest suffer, hysteria ensues, and rational thought cannot dictate the strategy that must be executed. We have to wait and see what they are doing before we decide what is in the interests of the large masses of peaceful, patriotic people.
Okay. No, I mean, I'm a realist myself here, which is why I keep saying that this revolution will not be fought with firearms. It is being fought with keyboards and information. I think the fact that our government is still thinking in terms of conflict in the streets is actually putting them at a disadvantage. Although looking at what Facebook and Twitter and Google are doing to control online discussions, it's obvious they're finally waking up to the realization that the infosphere has radically changed, and they're trying to gain control of it. So, Layla?
You're right. I agree with you completely. There's one other thing I noticed on your website again today. You have a wonderful quote about we're usually betrayed by those
Yes.
we trust the most. The
Yes.
problem is that we are also deceived. I've always said that no one is deceived who does not want to be deceived.
Yes.
As long as if someone is presenting us with something we want to believe, we tend to believe it. And usually they build on beliefs that already exist and then add to them. That's why the Zionists have recruited Christianity by saying, well, Christianity owes its origins to Judaism. Well, Zionism is not Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
Judaism is a spiritual ideology that existed in the province or the satrapy of Judah. And many people believed in it. The Moabites, the Ammonites, all of those followed the same ideology. Look at the story of Ruth and Naomi. They obviously practiced the same religion and spoke the same language, or else they could not have moved. Ruth could not have come from Moab and come. So they saying that they have this historic connection. And as one friend pointed out to me, the reason Israel wants to conquer so much of the land in the Middle East is because they want to control not only archaeology, but how they interpret it. Every now and then I read about an archaeological discovery and the interpretation is, look, in Israel 7,000 years ago, look how advanced we were. Excuse me, Israel 7,000 years ago? That's part of the absurdity.
Yeah, there's been a lot of major fraud with Israeli archaeology, and I'm remembering the scandal around Odette Golan, who falsified so many things like the Jehoash tablet and the pomegranate staff, and yeah, it's part of the propaganda.
I'll tell you something else. You know the great military hero Moshe Dayan.
Yeah.
His first wife, Ruth, was good friends with my parents, and she and I met when I was working in Vancouver, and I took her out to lunch. And she told me in that luncheon that her first husband, or her husband, she was his first wife. She never remarried. But Ruth told me that her husband, Moshe, had stolen so many archaeological treasures and artifacts and sold them or kept them.
All right. Well, listen, Layla, we got to let you go. Yeah, we got to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials. And we're coming up on the top of the hour, and the lovely Lady Claire.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Is your property a financial burden and causing you grief? Have you tried to sell but can't find buyers? Or are you just too busy to sell your property? Don't worry, we have the right solution for you. We buy properties as is, with cash, close in 30 days, and pay all closing costs. Our service is ideal for property owners who are in pre-foreclosure, have high-end repair costs, experiencing financial hardship, going through costly divorces, are relocating, need cash for retirement, suffering family loss, or have tax liens. Whatever your situation may be, we can help you sell your property and get the money you need. If you own a single-family home or multiple family units, call us for a free consultation at 888-910-1037. That's 888-910-1037. Or visit our website at cashingproperty.com. That's cashingproperty.com. Sell your property fast and leave all your worries behind.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And welcome back to our show here. We actually had a listener who called on in wanting to know who the singer is on that little piece of bump music, and her name is Thanea Crone. It's from her album Kaleidoscope. And if you go to WRHradio.com, that's a page that's devoted to this radio show. And in there's a little player with the long versions of all the music that we use and gives the credit to where it all comes from. Okay, well, for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see sitting next to me this gorgeous creature, the lovely Lady Claire. She's here a little early, so I'm going to do a couple more news stories before the top of the hour. And here's an interesting one, and it's kind of a personal thing for me here. This is coming out of cuzblue.com. NASA has confirmed, big announcement, and made a big deal about it. There is water on the moon. They're saying there are tiny pockets of ice on the lunar surface, even on the sunlit side, that could provide enough oxygen, hydration, and rocket fuel to support a human colony. Now, what's really interesting is right after the Apollo missions, and they brought all these moon rocks back to Earth, NASA announced there was absolutely no water found in them at all. And it later came on out that, yes, they had detected water in the lunar samples, but NASA assumed, and we know what assume means, that it was a laboratory contaminant because everybody knew there couldn't be any water on the moon. And so it was a little bit of confusion there. And now it's all been sorted out. There is water on the moon, which is going to make it easier to have a permanent colony. All right, getting on to some news about computers here. Microsoft is now going to forcibly open some websites using their new Edge browser instead of Internet Explorer. They're going to basically stop support for Internet Explorer, and they're forcing people to use Edge unless you want to go ahead and use Firefox or Chrome or something else. And I downloaded Edge to take a look at it, and it seems to be continuing that little design idea that began with Windows 8. Of the little square icons that have got information there, whether you want it or not. Here's an alarming story. Apparently over in Britain's National Health Service, they have decided that it is perfectly okay to give children of 10 years of age puberty blockers as the beginning of the step to gender transition. And the NHS Gender Identity Clinic is saying that at 10 years old, children understand sex and gender enough to undergo these medications. Personally, I think it's child abuse, but apparently Joe Biden says he supports 8-year-olds changing gender and said that he will flat out change the law on their behalf. And that's another reason not to vote for him. Okay, we're going to take a break here for station identification. We're going to close the phone lines for a little while so that the Lady Claire's got a clear microphone to work with, and we'll be back after these few words.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed a newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, the majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper doesn't give out the important attention of what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. And for those of you watching on YouTube, this gorgeous creature sitting next to me is the lovely Lady Claire, who likes to join us on our second hour every Friday with her unique perspective on the world. So I'm already going to take a guess what your first story is going to be, because we teased it during hour number 1.
Yes, and thank you, Michael. Good to be here with you, as always, and our listeners and our viewers. This is the censored Biden story that forced Glenn Greenwald to quit the firm he co-founded. Now, this appears via Glenn Greenwald's Substack. I am posting here the most recent draft of my article about Joe and Hunter Biden, the last one seen by Intercept editors before telling me that they were going to refuse to publish it absent major structural changes involving the removal of all sections critical of Joe Biden, leaving only a narrow article critiquing media outlets. I will also, in a separate post, publish all communications I had with Intercept's editors surrounding this article so you can see the censorship in action. And given the Intercept's denials, decide for yourself if this is the kind of transparency responsible journalists do provide today, and which the Intercept refuses to this day to provide regarding their conduct in the reality winner story. This draft obviously would have gone through one more round of proofreading and editing by me to shorten it, fix typos, etc. But it is very important that the integrity of the claims to publish the draft in unchanged form that Intercept editors saw and announced they would not edit but completely gut as a condition to publication. An attempt to assess the importance of the known evidence and a critique of media lies to protect their favorite candidate could not be published at the Intercept. You know, Mike, when Glenn was there, I felt that I could absolutely trust anything that came out of the Intercept. And
I agree.
You know, and frequently he would be featured with various private independent political blogs. But after this, I can't link to them anymore. I don't know if it's real.
No, we don't. We certainly know it's being filtered here.
Yeah.
And the Intercept violated their contract with Glenn Greenwald, which guaranteed him, independence and content control over his work. And of course, everyone remembers Glenn Greenwald as the driving force behind getting Edward Snowden's story out there.
Right.
So he's definitely got the name value and the credentials. Now, we have this article actually linked to the front page of whatreallyhappened.com. It's a very long article if you want to read it. But definitely, this is a major story. And it's like Matt Taibbi said the other day, the Biden scandal is bad enough, but the suppression of the story has become the real scandal in all of this.
Yes. And because of how he did what he did here, I mean, Mike, that is a level of intellectual and spiritual integrity you don't find much anymore.
Absolutely. I mean, if I was in his place, I would have done exactly the same thing.
Yeah. And this man, because of what he's done, is going to have my undying respect forever. I mean, I'm serious. And if he starts another blog, I will make sure that people see his articles, the What Really Happened readers.
Yes.
Now, this is hysterical. Biden campaign is now accusing Facebook of favoring Trump after Glitch takes down thousands of ads. Now, Facebook did announce last month that it would bar new political ads from being run on its platform during the week of the election as part of CEO Mark Zuckerberg's effort to signal to Democratic lawmakers that the company was taking its role as a guardian of democracy. Let me roll that back. Guardian of democracy, my
No,
astrolabe.
guardian of the Democrats.
Yes. Okay. Hello. There you go. Barring new
That's
ads.
a typo. Yeah.
Barring new ads during the final week of the campaign seemed more like a Kafkaesque nuisance rather than a sensible tactic to try and cut down on mudslinging and misinformation associated with the election. And since no half-hearted attempt at virtue signaling goes unpunished, Facebook is now facing backlash from Joe Biden's campaign, which has accused the company of favoring President Trump after thousands of Joe Biden ads were inexplicably blocked. Mike, I mean, I love the smell of irony in the afternoon.
Oh, I absolutely
Oh, my
do.
goodness.
I absolutely do here.
And here's more from the FT, Financial Times. Facebook has mistakenly blocked thousands of Joe Biden advertisements from appearing on its platform with just days to go until the U.S. presidential election, according to the Democratic Challengers campaign, as the company struggles to implement its latest policy to combat misinformation. Yesterday evening, Biden's campaign said that many of its Facebook advertisements were still not appearing on the site after the social media company attempted to clamp down on new political ads in the final stretch of the campaign. Now, Facebook blamed the glitches on unanticipated issues, brushing off suggestions that they were evidence of bias toward the campaign of President Donald Trump or the Republicans.
Well, Facebook has a bias, but it's definitely not toward Trump.
No,
It's-
definitely
yes.
not. Now, Mike, do you remember when Ma Bell, the Bell telephone company, got smashed into 1,000 little pieces?
Yes, the baby
And-
bells.
Yeah, the baby bells, and made prices a little bit more competitive?
Yes.
Oh, I can just see the moaning and gnashing of teeth with the execs at Facebook, Twitter, etc. when the congressional hearings about breaking up these platforms happen if Trump, in fact, is reelected.
Well, that's why they're in a panic.
Of course, and depending on the makeup of this incoming Congress, such a demand for hearings may well take on a life of its own. Mike, what are your thoughts
Well,
here?
absolutely. You know, these large mega social media corporations,
Mhm.
had they been treating their users with a fair and even hand, would not be in this mess. But with the very obvious bias they showed, not just in 2016, but certainly much more intensely here in 2020, a lot of people are very upset with what they're doing. Now, what was interesting during the Senate hearings is the Republicans were in high dudgeon over the very obvious bias and censorship, and the Democrats, of course, thought this was all hunky-dory because obviously the bias and censorship favored them as well.
Right.
But we do know that YouTube has already been served regarding a possible antitrust lawsuit. Google is in the crosshairs as well. And if Trump does win re-election, we may very well see these companies get broken up into a bunch. And then they'll have to sort out the mess about common carrier traffic,
Right.
and sharing results across the network. But it's time these billionaire CEOs understood that they're running a public service, and that they're really not able to use that service to enforce their particular political views on the public. Now, in my view, all of this represents in-kind contributions to Joe Biden's campaign, which may run afoul of campaign finance laws.
Absolutely. I'd like to talk a little bit about the situation in France. The France beheading terrorist is revealed to be a boat migrant who arrived via Italy. Now, this
Yes,
is
let's go for those open borders.
Oh, right. The terrorist who beheaded a woman and killed 2 others near a church in Nice, France, has been revealed to be a Tunisian boat migrant who arrived on the Mediterranean island of Lampedusa last month. Now, the attack followed the beheading of Samuel Paty earlier this month, a school teacher who was targeted as part of a revenge attack for showing cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad to pupils in a class about free speech. And it's now been confirmed, Mike, that the jihadist in Nice who yelled Allahu Akbar during the attack arrived in Europe as a boat migrant. Now, he entered France from Italy, traveling through the southern Italian city of Bari on 9 October, after reaching the Mediterranean island of Lampedusa on 20 September. And this is from Sky News.
Yes.
Now, he was carrying an Italian Red Cross identity document and a bag containing 2 unused knives. Other sources named the terrorists as Brahim A., saying that he was rescued by an Italian rescue boat on 20 September and placed in quarantine due to COVID. Mike, I'm looking at this just aghast. And how long will it take before Europe realizes that this open border policy is going to cause more assassinations against innocent Europeans?
Well, I'm sure the people of Europe already understand this.
Yeah.
I mean, the people of Sweden have seen their country turn into a high crime cesspool because of this open border immigration. And remember, migration is a filtering process. The well in their home countries tend to stay there. And what you get coming across that border are people who are not doing well, and they're being lured with promises of free stuff from these liberal democratic governments. They're fleeing prosecution. They're seeking free medical care for highly contagious diseases they're carrying. And yeah, when you bring the third world into your country will become third world. And that's exactly what's going on here.
Yeah.
And I know that there is a growing anti-immigrant movement all across Europe, but the globalists and their puppets in the national governments in the EU are trying to put it down and saying, oh, you're being Islamophobic, and you can't be anti-Islamic, and just because one Muslim has cut off the head of this teacher is no reason to be worried about any other Muslims, which I wish they would say the same thing about the police in this country, where just because one cop has shot a black man is no reason to hate and defund all the police departments.
Right.
But apparently there's a double standard at work there.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most classic definitions of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, and yet expecting a different outcome. I mean, come on.
Absolutely.
And as to the cartoons, what I've seen, they are nasty and repugnant.
I agree.
But if they had substituted Jesus for Muhammad, I would have the same reaction to them.
Actually, Charlie Hebdo has gone after all kinds of religious figures, not just Muhammad, including Jesus. And yes, the cartoons are offensive. And I'm not even a religious person, but I think the cartoons are in very, very poor taste. And frankly, after all the ruckus that Charlie Hebdo has caused, I'm surprised they're still in business. I have to wonder about the mindset of people who actually buy that magazine off the newsstand.
Yeah, and I mean, I would have found something like that, substituting Jesus, very repugnant.
Yes.
But do you honor your faith by killing someone just because of their ethnicity or faith, who had absolutely nothing to do with creating the cartoons? Now, the founder of one utopian communal American society made the observation. The guy's name was Elbert Hubbard. My late dad had a book of his writings, and he had some beautiful things to say. If you want someone on your side of the river, you don't throw them in, pull them up on the other side, and expect them to be grateful. You build a bridge, and you gently walk with them to the other side, convincing them with gentleness and logic. And not all Muslims are violent. I've met many who are lovely human beings
So have I.
and came to this country for the exact same reason that our ancestors did.
Disneyland.
Yeah, right. No, to be able to work, to be able to be free from prosecution because of their particular religious beliefs. But I've got to tell you, Mike, what I pray for as a Christian is a true 21st century renaissance for the Muslim faith, which causes them, even if they are offended by something, to realize that revenge killing is utterly the wrong answer here. And looking at something where they may have substituted Jesus for Muhammad, I would not like it. But I think I have the spiritual horse sense to understand. I do not honor my understanding of my God by attempting to kill someone. Revenge is one of the most base human emotions, And for a society to both evolve and not unravel at the seams, people have to have a reasonable understanding of this.
Absolutely.
And you covered this earlier in the show.
Remember what Gandhi said? An eye for an eye and a tooth
tooth
for a tooth, and soon the world is blind and
toothless.
toothless.
Yes. You covered this earlier about the alleged PKK Workers' Party Protection Unit supporting Armenian forces. Now, the article that I had said that Mr. Putin said, I haven't heard of it.
Okay.
And if Putin says he doesn't know something, that something just may not exist, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, we've got release tracks that show that Turkish warplanes deployed in Azerbaijan are providing air cover for the Bayraktar TB2 drone striking Armenian positions, while the Turkish aerial command post circulating in Turkish airspace near the conflict zone coordinates the entire operation. Now, according to Armenia, this was planned and carried out with deep involvement of Turkish military specialists. Under the pressure of evidence, the Azerbaijani side has already admitted the presence of Turkish specialists and military equipment on its territory. Now, the last step toward getting toward a reality here would be for the Azerbaijani leadership to confirm that these Turkish elements are involved with combat.
Yes.
On October 28th and 29th, forces of the Turkish Azerbaijani bloc were conducting intensive strikes on Sushi and Stepanakert, the two largest towns in Nagorno-Karabakh. Apparently, several airstrikes even hit the maternity section of the hospital in Stepanakert. Now, some sources even speculated that these strikes were delivered by F-16 warplanes. F-16, does that ring a bell, Mike?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it's an American jet, fighter jet. And
it's a top seller.
Okay. But on the other hand, the Armenians have demonstrated they're not much better. They shelled the Azerbaijani town of Barda, killing at least 21 and wounding 70. Now, the Turkish Azerbaijani shelling of settlements in towns in Nagorno-Karabakh is a logical result of its attempt to move Armenians from the region. Therefore, the strikes are not only to hit at military targets, Mike, they're also to displace the local population.
Yes.
And meanwhile, the Armenian retaliation in a similar manner rarely has real military goals, but rather it helps Ankara and Baku to gain some evidence to confirm its propaganda narrative about Armenian terrorism. These actions contribute to the further escalation of the conflict and weaken any hopes for any kind of diplomatic resolution. Mike, your thoughts here? How far is this going to go?
Somebody somewhere is keeping this thing going because the last ceasefire lasted just 1 hour. You could have clocked that one with an egg timer here.
Yeah.
It's you just can't help but hear the war drums beating in the distance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You sort of have to wonder when things will really explode nearly globally, because I think that's really close to where we are.
They're going to explode here after the election, and who knows, there may be a cascade or domino effect, into other regions as well.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of war spillover, apparently Turkish and Azeri mobs are hitting the streets looking for Armenians in France. Now, we've had these latest terrorist killings, and France is just reeling from this. And now it's got incredible free speech traditions as a secular republic versus Muslim immigrant outrage over negative depictions of Muhammad in French media. And they've grabbed the headlines, but there are other disturbing trends which have not received so much attention, suggesting that the violence looks to grow. And apparently this week there have been reports of clashes between Turkish Azeri demonstrators and Armenians on the streets of France. Now, on Wednesday, multiple videos circulated widely on social media that appear to show Muslim Turks and Azeris hunting down Armenian Christians. And in a Twitter post by Alison Muse, she wondered out loud the following: what if they had been yelling, "Where are you, Jews? Where are you, blacks?"
It would be ugly. It would definitely be ugly.
But my bigger question here is, and I'm calling you out on this, the Muslims of both the French Sunni and Shiite Muslim faith traditions. Is this what you have been teaching your followers in the 21st century? That the
Well, I hope not.
that the murder of innocents who have nothing to do with this conflict is something Allah wants to see happen?
Okay, we'll be back after these few words.
What would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly!
The new Ease Off Model Easy 4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The Ease Off lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
Sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the Ease Off? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my Ease Off?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry because we are offering $200 off on the new Easy 4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows too. Ease Off LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417-932-6419.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Well, they're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington too. You know, it makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? I've always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy, but I must admit lately I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the 7 seas. Yeah, I want to be a pirate.
Welcome back to our show here. And Claire, I know you wanted to pick up and complete this story.
Yeah, I do. And I have to wonder, because imams are very powerful in the Muslim culture.
Yes, they are.
Aren't there a few of these guys, and they're primarily guys, except a few in Western China who are ladies, by the way?
Yes.
Are there no imams preaching peace and tolerance in 21st century France? And I've got to tell you where I'm coming from. When faith mandates revenge against the innocent, that, in my world, is faith that has been turned on its head.
Well, let's be a little bit fair here, because
Okay.
remember, I think it was Pope Innocent III
Yeah.
that invented the idea of holy war,
Yes.
otherwise known as jihad.
Oh, I
killing in the
know.
name of God.
I
Okay.
know. It's not exclusive.
No, it isn't. But
to-
the Muslims sort
Yeah.
of copied the idea. It's
Yeah.
not like they came up with it on their own.
No.
Okay.
But that was faith turned on its head in
It
my
absolutely
world. Yeah.
was. It
And
absolutely was.
were I the head of French national security right now, I would be talking to some of the most influential imams I could find in France and ask them for the sake of all French citizens and immigrants who are having a tough time, because going from Middle East, Africa, Europe, it's a culture shock. It's tough. But I'm hoping that some of these imams will entreat their congregations at Friday prayers to find other ways than violence to express their anger and upset. And as we said earlier, Gandhi said it, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, and suddenly everyone becomes both blind and toothless. We go now to the...
I'm nearsighted, by the way. Okay.
Apparently now, UK cops will have the power to raid lockdown rule defying Christmas celebrations. And apparently...
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch.
Yeah. And apparently, local mayors are battling with the UK's central government over the terms of anti-COVID lockdown measures. And local police chiefs are warning that Britons may be in store for a holiday season distinctly reminiscent of Red Terror. Several police chiefs warned that family Christmas celebrations could be broken up by intruding officers if households are found to have violated the lockdown rules. And
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, right. David Jameson, who is the commissioner of the West Midlands Police, said officers will now be compelled to investigate reports of rule breaking over the festive period. Since the West Midlands is currently under Tier 2 restrictions, meaning that people cannot mix with anyone out of their own household or bubble. I don't know what the bubble is.
Well, that's okay. I really can't stand my in-laws anyway, so...
Stop it.
Yes, dear.
Thank you. Speaking to the Telegraph, Jameson said, I think there is large groups of people planning on gathering where there shouldn't be, and police will have to intervene. If there is flagrant breaking of the rules, then the police have to enforce the law. And Mike, upon reading this, I think that I'm on the verge of buying that T-shirt we've all been saying that says, make Orwell fiction again.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great, we do seem to be there.
Yeah.
And it's like, especially here in Santa Claus, Indiana, this attack on Christmas is going to have severe negative repercussions. It's certainly going to hurt our local economy.
Yeah, definitely. This is so draconian and dystopian in the extreme. I don't know just how much more the Brits are going to be able to take in terms of this governmental interference in their private lives.
Well, we're already seeing anti-lockdown riots starting to spread all over Europe.
And particularly when the WHO has now distanced itself from lockdowns being the primary way to control the virus. There are moments when I have to wonder if this isn't some kind of a grand social experiment with how much people can take of extreme government suppression and how well lockdowns make people feel more emotionally vulnerable to government propagandas of all types. Mike, what do you think?
I think it's probably having the opposite effect. I mean, to judge by a lot of the phone calls and emails that we get for this radio show, people are basically turning against the official story on COVID-19, some of them quite vehemently. And so I speculated the other day that the lockdowns may be an experiment to see how much the government can get away with ahead of locking us down for reasons other than COVID-19, like rioting in the streets and so forth.
Yeah. And there was an anonymous article written by someone in Australia, Melbourne. And they were talking about having been locked down for 3 months.
Yes.
And just with their partner, but just the emotional toll of this distancing.
I understand divorces are going up from couples that are being forced to spend that much time together.
I guess we're lucky in that regard.
I still love you, by the way.
I still love
All
you
right.
too, sweetheart.
right.
You know, and we're together almost 24/7. I mean, the time
Yes,
that
we
we're
are.
not together is very limited, very few and
All
far
right. We got to
between.
take another break for commercials. And when we come on back, we're going to open the phone lines. So we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Extendovite really works. Here are some reviews from Amazon.com. Amazon customer, 5 out of 5 stars. I'm quite happy about it. This product has relieved what appears to be an angina problem, pain in the chest after climbing stairs, and short on breath. I'm quite happy about it. Dr. Sam Surreal. Good product and ingredients. Kept my blood pressure normal after mild heart attack in 2015. Switched to plant-based diet, also to reverse atherosclerosis. John Bispicos, 5 out of 5 stars. Built up my immune system. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we have been building our online store. Well, we have been focusing on bringing you the best talk show host in the country. Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we also want our listeners to have products they can use every day and in times of emergency. We have added new products each week to our store. Your support of this network, plus products at the best prices, is a win-win situation. Check out our new store. Go to our website, republicbroadcasting.org, and click on the online store located at the top of our website. Together, we can continue to grow RBN and help our listeners prepare for the future. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and click on our online store or call us
800-724-2719 extension 3. 800-724-2719 extension 3.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
Welcome back to our show here, and we're going to go ahead and take a phone call from Sebastian in Sweden. Hello, Sebastian. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Yes, hello, Mike. How are you and Claire doing today?
We're doing wonderful.
I just wanted to comment with Claire. She brought up the thing in what happened in France, and today I think it was that the French foreign minister came out, or the interior minister came out and said that more or less they're going to declare war on not is not these radical Islam, but all of Islam. He came out and said that today.
Okay.
So it's really getting, and now they have the military on the streets in France. They have the highest alert. And if you ever been to France and seen the military, they have a special section just to help the police. And they have really heavy weapons, machine guns, and I've seen them in action before when I was in Paris in the 70s, 69. So I know how they are. They're nothing to play around with. So it's getting serious. It's spreading everywhere, and the thing of it is it's freedom of speech, and they can't have their religion and have freedom of speech too. I don't think they can. It's not a coexistence. There's no way.
No, it isn't.
Coincide with each other. So things are really getting bad. And really, real quick, with the election, I hope and pray everything goes good on Tuesday, and that the streets are quiet-ish anyway. I don't think they're going to be completely quiet, but and I'm really worried that it's going to, be violence in America. And I hope people get out and vote for Trump. It could be the very last stand for any Western civilization.
I agree.
So it's really and truly important. That's all I had to say, and I hope everyone out there listening and has okay, and take care of yourselves. And
All right, we will. And thank you for the kind words, and thank you very much for the phone call. And we're going to go back to Claire, and she has a story with kind of a little personal connection here.
Yes. The issue of lockdowns is very personal, especially when you have someone older and they can't see family because of the lockdown, and the people inside the facility can't be visited. I've got a family member living in an assisted living facility in Santa Cruz, and it's been over 4 months since she has been allowed to see her family. She's 90, living alone since my cousin died, and she's got advanced Parkinson's. Now, this woman may die in lockdown without ever seeing her 4 adult kids again. Mike, since when is this humane?
It's not humane at all, and it's affecting a lot of people. I mean, just over in Evansville, the assisted living facility where, Claire's mother is living, they just locked down again because somebody over there tested positive for COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of voices speaking up saying that the psychological and emotional damage from this enforced isolation is actually more harmful than the COVID-19 virus. I mean, if you really think about how few people are actually dying of COVID-19. Most of the people who get it, some are asymptomatic. Most, it's like a bad cold or a flu. And the tiny percentage of people who get COVID-19 who are actually dying had other medical issues as well that probably were limiting their future life as well. And I think more needs to be done for these people who are just basically shut in and locked down, because 4 months without human contact with your own kids, to me, that almost seems like cruel and unusual punishment for somebody who has not actually committed a crime of any kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got a couple more callers.
Yes, we do. Let's go to Mark in Georgia. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I think that what we have is a connotation. It's like the word agenda. Somebody in the local, county GOP leadership said, "You have an agenda." And I said, "Yes, I'm completely open and honest about it." Is that what you have a problem with? Is that I'm being open and honest about how some people have an agenda that is not open and honest? Like politicians.
Yeah.
And so the thing is that the word military, I've been watching this TV series called Leverage. It's about this team of, basically they go after, they're in a way they're criminals, but they're criminals who have a team that goes after bad guys to basically swindle them and do right by the people that they swindled or otherwise mistreated. I don't know if you've heard of the TV series, but in one episode, they were going after this militia group, and they make it out as though we're anti-government, which is absurd. We're accountable to government. All we have to insist on is just as we're accountable to you, you got to be accountable to us. And that
Yes.
includes stop taking us for a bunch of idiots. So the thing is, I put the word lawful in front of the word militia. To be clear, we're not talking about a bunch of idiots with guns. That does not constitute a militia. There's 5, I think I've gone through this before, but I'm going to repeat it. Informed, organized, trained, disciplined, and equipped. And the
Yes.
Second Amendment is not the first reference to the militia in the U.S. Constitution. It says that there's funds that Congress is to make sure that the militia is disciplined. It has to be disciplined in order for it to be a militia, because otherwise you have a bunch of lawless yahoos. And that's one of the very core rules is the militia can't. You got to get it across to individuals. Don't act on your own, unless you're in a situation where you have to do what you do to survive.
Yes.
So,
Well, you're talking about the organized militia.
yeah, and that's where we the people are the militia, and if a person chooses not to bear arms, and it's like, look, you can still have a function, you're still, part of the network, you're still there holding the government accountable, or at least calling for accountability. And if we call for accountability and nothing happens, well, at least people know that the system we have and the system we're supposed to have are two different things. And that's where what we actually have is a plutocratic oligarchy, and the goal is to reinstate the rule of law, which is what the Greek word republic is. Actually, the Greek word is politon, and it got translated into the Latin as res publica, which means that which pertains to the people. It means the rule of law. And Plato was very clear, we're not supposed to have a democracy. Because there's people, when people use the word democracy as a political platitude, what they mean is that people should have a say. And when people have a say, it needs to be, ideally, it should be people being properly informed, or at least bad ideas being exposed for what they are, false accusations being seen for what they are and revealed as such, because lies are only going to have power when people believe them. And that's what people need to understand is the idea that we're supposed to have a democracy. We have a democratic process, but we're not going to have a republic until the people, I don't know, I don't want it to come to violent revolution any more than you do. But that's the question is, how do we get back to a proper republic when the one thing the government just refuses to do is to come clean? That this scamdemic, all of a sudden 98% of the people stop dying of the regular seasonal flu, which is nonsense. People have died of the seasonal flu this year like any other year, but they're attributing it to COVID-19 for, monetary reasons or whatever their motivation is. But they're, for whatever reason, they're saying this is COVID-19 novel coronavirus. But from what I'm gathering, there's a growing number of people all around the world that are really getting tired of this nonsense. And I, for one, am tired of people being told that they need to wear a mask. The thing I'm sympathetic with, here in Georgia, the word has gotten out they can't legally enforce it for the clientele, but they do enforce it as a condition of employment. Too often is you've got to wear a mask to work wherever. And so that's one thing that people need to be aware of is that there needs to be a legal means of saying, you can't make me wear a mask that is endangering my health, because what the corporate headquarters need to get through to them. Throughout the union, I think it's fairly common that there's a statute in place that no place of business can be held accountable for somebody contracting COVID-19. But you can't say the same thing of pleurisy or other illnesses begotten of the bad policy of wearing masks that are not medically beneficial. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely.
I was out at Six Flags, and one of their head honchos out there I said, you need to put on your mask. I put it on over my mouth. No, you got to put it over your nose. And he didn't listen to a word I said when I tried to get across to him. All the scientific tests show that wearing masks doesn't benefit people. It doesn't prevent the spread of disease. Well, we're following CDC. And he talked all over me. And I said, you're not listening to me at all. And I couldn't get across to him. It's like, I'm one of the people paying your salary. And so, I looked on their website and they had the policy that you can wear an acrylic face shield instead of wearing a mask. And when I met him later, I said, "Of course, this meets with your approval." He said, "Yeah, no problem. You don't want to wear a mask, then you can wear an acrylic face shield." And I look at that as somewhat of I really don't want to do this either. But this is, that's one of the lesser of two evils that I'm willing to put up with. Typically I use it when I'm like running my angle grinder or like that, where I don't want to get sparks flying in my face.
Good idea.
That's why I bought the thing in the first place. But if it keeps me from having to wear a stupid, ill-advised mask, and I took one of the masks that I was issued by the Census Bureau, and I modified it where I could put, basically took the strap that goes around the ears, and I cut it and then attached it on the backside with a rubber band, and I wrote on it, "Why comply with lies?" When I'm wearing the mask, I'm getting across a message, and then the word scamdemic, because that's what this thing is. But properly spelled, it's scamdemic with a $sign, just like science spelled with a $sign, meaning it's called something even though it's not authentic. Because what people need to understand is there's no way this fraud could have been perpetrated without the international bankers. I trust you're aware.
A lot of people were in on this. There was a lot of money being made, a lot of misinformation, and again, what we're seeing around the world is the general populations are basically straining at the leash. They're tired of the face masks. They're tired of social distancing. We're hearing all of this research coming on out, even from the CDC itself, that none of this stuff really works all that well. It's just window dressing to reassure the people that the government is doing something about this problem, which may not have been that big a problem after all, because remember, there was that revelation that came on out that the initial estimates of fatalities from COVID-19 was based on a math error, and they made it 10 times higher than it actually turned out to be. And so they sort of created this fake terror. And then they, for political reasons, said, we have to act like we're doing something to deal with it. So we'll have social distancing and we'll have the masks, neither of which really work. But it looks good, especially coming up to an election. And I think once next week's election is over, we're going to see this whole COVID-19 thing fade away pretty rapidly.
I wish that were true. I don't know. Are you familiar with Jeremy Hammond? He's been writing articles. He's basically refuting the Zionist narrative. He's also, the same thing to clarify, it's not the problem. The vaccines would not be a problem if the vaccine industry were accountable for the harm they do.
Yes.
He recently came out with an article explaining that the claim that there is no isolated virus, that's not really true. They have isolated it. It all depends on where you direct your screening. So the thing is that if you look hard enough, you see that they have isolated it, but that does not mean that the PCR test is valid, because it has a lot of false positives, which means why are you even bothering with this test? And that's one thing I'd like to see. I guess the thing is that sometimes an analysis needs to be done of how many articles have come out where they talk about all these cases. And do they ever disclose at all, or do they just get around to it? Like, here's a 3-page report or 5-page report, and only in the last sentence or two, or towards the very end, it tells you, oh yeah, 98% of the cases turn out to be asymptomatic. And I'm like, yeah.
Well, that information should be in the abstract to the article here. But getting on back, the PCR test is not a diagnostic test. It never has been. Even the inventor of the PCR, which he won a Nobel Prize for that, and even he has gone public saying it is not intended for diagnostic use. The only really accurate test is an antibodies test.
Yeah, and even then, the thing is, they have not been honest about a lot of things. Like, there's a lot more people that are going to die because of the unfolding economic collapse than because of the disease.
Yeah.
And that's what's the real problem, is they don't know how to own up to having lied to us. So,
well, they never do. They never do. Mark, listen,
that's why we don't have a republic.
Yeah, we don't. Mark, I'm going to have to let you go. We're running short on time. We got callers waiting on the line that I really want to get to, and we're going to go to Peter in Los Angeles. Hello, Peter. What's on your mind?
Hey, that was an excellent call, and he made some great points. And I called up to say something about immigration, but it relates to what that gentleman was saying as well. Again, I want to say that we have been. When I go to France or Sweden, where all your other caller was from, I like to see Swedish culture. I like to see French culture. I like to go to Germany.
Yes.
I like to go to England. I don't like to go to Pakistan. If I want to go to Pakistan, I go to Pakistan. But that's what you get when you go to London, and you get Tunisia when you go to France, and that's just in Sweden. You get the Maghreb. We are being systematically attacked by the overlords of everything, the bankers, the people who oversee everything, the Zionist bankers and you can accomplish anything, Mike. I'll say it again. If you can print money out of nothing and never be audited, there's nothing you can't accomplish. But there's no white identity here, right? There no longer is going to be a French identity. There's no longer going to be a Swedish identity, but there's certainly going to be an Israeli and Jewish identity.
Peter, I got to put you on hold. Peter, I got to put you on hold. I'm sorry. We got to take another break for commercials, and I guess we're going to skip the break here. So, Peter, we're skipping the break. So, Peter, please continue.
So they're allowing these people in the United States to basically the only fundamental opposition to these bankers taking over everything, which they already have, really, is the educated European American in North America and in Europe, high standard of living, all that kind of thing. They're trying to absolutely do away with them through the Great Replacement and so on and so forth. And then, and I look upon this, by the way, one of the reasons why they seem to hate Trump so much is because he's a populist. And I love how the pandemic quote plays into a populist. You look at the crowds that Trump draws versus the 10 or 11 people that show up for Biden. And they, the whole thing about assembly is there to hinder a populist. The last thing they want is the will of the people, or the people express. They want to control everything, like Glenn Greenwald was talking about. They control the press. They control everything. So this is. It's a fundamental thing, and I also say that they're getting, as I've said before, every day that there's a lockdown goes on, the people who can print money out of nothing are going to buy all the businesses that won't come back and can't come back. They'll buy them up for 10 cents on the dollar, and they'll have those just like they've already bought up basically all publicly held companies, and they now control them. And the more that lockdown goes, the more of the private companies that aren't on the stock exchange, they'll be able to buy them back as well. And all the real estate that will be thrown out of our homes for, they'll buy that as well. And that's what's going on. And I listen, I know there's other callers. You still got 8 minutes. That's it for me, Mike.
All right. Well, thanks an awful lot for the phone call, Peter. We're going to go to Charles in St. Petersburg. Hello, Charles. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. I was going to talk about Islamic things but later. Have you ever heard on BitChute? BITCHUTE.
Yes.
They have the stuff that YouTube's taken off. It's they talk about the COVID-19. Have you ever seen the one called COVID-19, the musical? That's a good one.
Yes.
Look that up.
Yeah.
It's a really funny show. How it's a pandemic, not a pandemic. And Vernon Coleman, he's an Englishman. He really sums up the case. And Irish doctor Ivor Cummins, Cummins. He shows how there's never been any real isolation of the so-called virus. It doesn't exist. He said he's gone through copious records in England and the British Isles and Ireland. They admit there's never been an isolation, so no proof that it even exists, that the COVID-19 virus even exists. And what you were and your lady Claire were talking about Islam. You've got to remember the two words in Arabic, the two phrases, Dar el-Islam, Dar al-Harb. Outside of Islam is the house of struggle. Inside Islam means submission.
Yes.
It's not correct to say that Europeans started the Crusades. It took hundreds of years of Muslim occupation of Europe, of most of Spain, until at least 1200 was under Muslim control. Large sections of Italy, southern Italy, and Sicily were controlled by Muslims for 2 centuries. And it took till 1100 when the first Crusades started. Europeans have been very not put up with this, where the Mediterranean was made into a Muslim lake. People risk their necks even going down to the sea to get captured by Islamic pirates. It's Dar el-Harb, Harb, means house of struggle. Joseph Campbell has that in one of his books. Remember that about Islam. Islam means submission. House of submission, house of struggle. That's mainly what I wanted to say. I sign off.
All right. Well, Charles, thank you very much for the phone call.
Thank you very much.
All right. We're coming up here on the end of our show. We got like about 2 minutes left. Is there something that you want to say?
Yes, I do. Please vote your conscience, vote your awareness of the revelations that we've been seeing. And please, this coming couple of weeks, be kind to each other. Very, very kind. We are all under a lot of stress, pressure. A lot of stuff is going on. And if you are so inclined, I think this would not be a bad time to start praying for this country.
Okay. And for you parents who are taking your kids out trick-or-treating, and we see this every Halloween, be sure and inspect and check all the treats that your children bring home.
Amen.
There are some very twisted people out there who like to do things like put pins inside of candy. So, please be very, very cautious here. Around here, people are trick-or-treating only with their relatives and known friends. Not that that would be a problem here in this neighborhood.
No.
These are really cool people around
They
here.
are.
They really are. Don't forget, over the weekend, Saturday night, to set your clocks back 1 hour. It's the end of daylight savings time. And we should be hearing our exit music here pretty soon. So, nope, not quite yet. There it is. All right. So happy Halloween. Have a great weekend. Stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please watch carefully what's going on with the Biden scandals. Email, Skype, and Zoom these discussions with your friends, because Google, Facebook, and Twitter can't block you from doing that. And we'll be back on Monday. Aloha, America.